Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, Counterspy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Action and Espionage, an episode of Counterspy starring Mandel-Kramer and Don-MacLaughlin. This was originally broadcast on April 4th, 1950, and this episode is entitled The Case of the Magic Murder.
Pepsi-Cola, P-E-P-S-I. That's your smartest cola buy. Pepsi-Cola presents Counterspy.
Washington calling David Harding, Counterspy. Washington calling David Harding, Counterspy.
Harding, Counterspy. Calling Washington.
United States Counterspy. Especially appointed to investigate and combat the enemies of our country, both at home and abroad.
Tonight, the case of the magic murder. A thrilling Counterspy report to the American people. Brought to you each Tuesday and Thursday by delicious Pepsi-Cola. And now to Counterspy.
Oh, this would be Mr. Peters, would it not?
Good evening, Professor Cabarrus.
Good evening.
I appreciate you seeing me this evening.
Please come in.
Thank you.
This chair by the desk, Mr. Peters.
Thanks. Well, you were lucky to find such a nice little house so near Washington, Professor.
It was your chief of the counterspies, Mr. David Harding, who helped me find it, Mr. Peters. The 3 rooms are sufficient for my personal needs. I have turned the cellar into a fine laboratory for my homework.
Of course, you'll be working most of the time at the government laboratories, won't you, sir?
Yes. The development of turbojet engines for land vehicles is a big project.
Mm-hmm.
I'm honored to have been brought to this country by your great government to work on it. Why, the possibilities of jet engines for land use are... But you did not come for a lecture on engines, Mr. Peters.
Not quite, Professor. The main purpose of my visit is to have you fill out this questionnaire.
That is what you mentioned on the telephone.
Yes. Now, by law, the counterspies are responsible for the safety of distinguished visitors from abroad. The more information we have, the easier our job is.
But no one means me any harm, Mr. Peters.
We hope not. But in these days, there's no knowing.
Oh.
Now, will you fill in these blanks? Now then, do we have the full name correctly, Professor?
Of the University of Maslava.
First name, Jan.
Middle name, Fyodorovich.
Yes, and last name, Cabarrus. C-A-B-A-R-R-U-S.
Correct.
It's an odd name, sir.
But common in my part of Europe.
Oh? Now, our records already show that you hold 5 degrees.
Yes.
And before the last war, you were a scientific consultant to the government of your own country.
Those were happy, fruitful days, Mr. Peters. But today, my country is in the hands of... My feelings on that point are very strong, Mr. Peters. Please, go on.
Now, as to your experiences during the war and immediately after, our records require some more information.
Well, I shall do my best.
In 1939, when the Germans first...
Operator, give me Counterspy headquarters at once.
You feeling all right now, Professor Cabarrus?
Somewhat shaken, Mr. Harding. I'm much more disturbed over Mr. Peters.
Me too. He's very seriously wounded in the head.
Oh.
He's been taken to the Counterspy infirmary. The shots seem to come, you said, from that glass door to the sunroom.
Yes. It must have been opened quietly by someone as Mr. Peters and I were filling out this... Oh, by the way, here it is.
Oh, the questionnaire. Thank you. Oh, Professor, did you by any chance get a glimpse of the man who fired the shots?
Just as it were, out of the corner of my eye.
Well, can you recall anything at all? Try to recreate the image of that moment in your mind, if you can.
Let me see. I was here. Mr. Peters was there.
You were at right angles to the sunroom door.
Yes. And then the door must have opened. He wore a black velour hat.
Oh?
And, he must have been holding the pistol in his left hand.
Left-handed. Now, go ahead.
I believe he was tall, wearing a dark coat, and yes, a mustache. Black or dark brown. And one other thing.
Yeah?
In my mind, the picture of that man is like death.
Death.
He seems like a skeleton. Sunken eyes, a thin face. I'm sorry, Mr. Harding. This may be all a waste of time.
Your pardon, Mr. Harding.
Oh, yes, Edwards. You and the boys find anything?
Yes, sir. The attacker apparently entered the sunroom from outside the house. Cut out a square of glass above the lock on the door from outside into the sunroom.
I see. Professor Cabarrus, with your permission, my men will keep working here. We can't even tell now whether the shots were meant for you or for Mr. Peters. Edwards, bring all the data with you later.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to headquarters to see how Peters is.
Peters is still on the operating table, Mr. Harding. The man who fired the shots was very accurate. All three hit Peters. One raked a furrow along the top of his head.
I expect Edwards will find that bullet buried in a wall at the house there.
And a second bullet lodged at the side of his neck. We've removed that one. There'll be no serious after effects.
What about the third bullet?
Lodged in his skull. We're studying the x-rays now.
Doctor, Harry Peters is not only my assistant, but he's my friend as well, and I hope...
Oh, we're doing our very best, Mr. Harding.
Will you excuse me? Harding.
Edwards, Mr. Harding. I've returned with all we found at the professor's house. I'm in the identification section now.
Thank you, Edwards. I'll be right down.
We couldn't find any trace of footprints around the house, Mr. Harding. The grass is all pretty well grown.
Well, what about car tracks?
Oh, no, sir.
Well, then, let's add up what we know about the attacker. Now, that bullet you dug out of the wall...
It's a .38 caliber, sir. From an automatic.
All right. Man using a .38 caliber automatic. He fired at a distance of about 20 feet. In imperfect light. That suggests he's a good marksman for a gunman. If he was aiming at Peters.
And we know he gained entrance to the house at the back through the sunroom by cutting out a square of glass above the door lock.
Yeah.
I guess then he reached inside and let himself in.
This complicates the problem, Edward. It's a burglar's technique. It's not often you find a professional gunman who uses burglar techniques. Or vice versa. All right, Edwards, let's get to work. Now, if you'll be good enough to handle the loudspeaker system to the floor below there.
Identification. This is Edwards with Mr. Harding in the supervisor's booth. We've got an identification job. Electronic classifiers, stand by.
First fact. Gunman. .38 automatic.
Gunman, 38 automatic. Next.
Left-handed.
Left-handed. Next.
Technique of entry by rear of establishment.
Technique of entry by rear of establishment. Next.
By door. By cutting out glass.
By door. By cutting out glass. Next.
Appearance. Mustache. Black or dark brown.
Appearance. Mustache. Black or dark brown. Next.
Eyes. Black or dark brown.
Eyes. Black or dark brown. Those are the facts. Let her roll.
They got something, Edward.
Yes, sir. And it's coming up here to the booth on the teletype. Here you are, sir.
Well. Outside wire, please. This is very strange, Edwards.
Yes, hello.
Professor Cabarrus, this is David Harding.
Yes, Mr. Harding.
We've located the name of a man answering the description you gave us.
And so quickly. It's amazing.
Name is Bones Cleburne. We could have him in our hands inside of 2 hours.
I'm so relieved, Mr. Harding.
There's only one difficulty. He was in an automobile accident in Florida. He's been dead for 8 months.
Dead? Well, then, I'm afraid my recollection of the attacker's appearance was not accurate enough. How's Mr. Peters?
Well, I'm very hopeful that when Mr. Peters regains consciousness, he'll be able to give us a vital clue in this case.
But how is he, Mr. Harding?
The doctors are waiting for the shock to subside before operating.
He will live?
I'm told his chances are only 50-50.
We just don't dare operate, Mr. Harding. We just don't dare.
I don't understand, Dr. Dillon.
Well, the bullet lodged in the frontal lobe. Probably the frontal gyrus. Just missing the lateral cerebral artery.
Oh.
Now, the removal would be a most delicate operation. None of us here on the staff knows the technique well enough.
Well, then who does?
Only one man, I'm afraid. A great brain surgeon who just this past year developed a new technique for this type of brain operation.
Get him over here, Dr. Dillon.
Well, he's Dr. K.T. Holborn of Central Hospital, Colby City.
Colby City? That's 1,000 miles away. Well, let's get on the phone. Dr. Peters has got to be saved. Operator, this is Mr. Harding.
Yes, Mr. Harding.
I'm going to be here on Dr. Dillon's line in the infirmary for some time. Now, I want you to keep it clear for fast work.
Certainly, Mr. Harding.
I want to place a call to Colby City, Central Hospital, Dr. K.T. Holborn. That's Holburn.
Colby City, Central Hospital, Dr. K.T. Holborn.
Right, and rush it.
Long distance.
Operator, this is Counterspy headquarters. I want Colby City, 6700.
Colby City, 6700.
Dr. K.T. Holborn.
Dr. K.T. Holborn. What is your number, please?
Equator 1000.
Will you hold the line, please?
No, Harding speaking.
Mr. Harding, Dr. Holborn is not at the hospital.
Oh? Let me speak with the long-distance operator, please.
Surely.
Hello?
Hello, sir. Dr. K.T. Holborn is not at the hospital.
Well, does the hospital know where he can be reached? Now, this is vitally important.
I am sorry, sir. They say Dr. Holborn's not in Colby City at all.
Where is he, then?
He's on a medical research trip to South America.
South America? Well, do you know where he is right now?
According to the schedule, he left with the hospital. He's in Caracas, Venezuela tonight. A 2-hour stopover.
Venezuela? Well, how's he traveling?
By plane, sir. Commercial Airlines of South America. The Rio de Janeiro flight.
Well, thank you very much, operator.
Holborn's in Venezuela, Mr. Harding? No, that's a bad blow to Peter's chances.
I'm not giving up yet, Dr. Dillon.
Yes, Mr. Harding?
I find that Dr. Holborn might be reached in Caracas, Venezuela, at the Commercial Airlines Airport. Rio de Janeiro flight. I've got to do everything possible to reach him. Will you put a call through there, please?
Hello, Miami. This is Washington, long distance. Will you give me your overseas operator?
Overseas?
Hello, overseas. A ticket. Washington, Equator 1000. Mr. David Harding, Counterspy headquarters, calling Dr. K.T. Holborn at Commercial Airlines Airport, Caracas, Venezuela.
Washington, Equator 1000. Mr. David Harding, Counterspy headquarters, calling Dr. K.T. Holborn, Commercial Airlines Airport, Caracas, Venezuela. Will you ring the number, Washington? Counterspy headquarters. This is the overseas operator. Let me speak to Mr. Harding, please.
Harding speaking.
On your call to Caracas, Venezuela, due to the number of calls already on hand, the next available time is tomorrow afternoon. Will that be satisfactory?
Tomorrow afternoon, operator Dr. Holborn's a brain surgeon. We must reach him for an important operation.
We'll try to complete your call as soon as possible. Caracas.
Miami overseas operator, a ticket.
A ticket. Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C.
Mr. David Harding.
Mr. David Harding.
Calling Commercial Airlines Airport.
Commercial Airlines Airport.
Rio de Janeiro flight passengers.
Rio de Janeiro flight passengers.
Dr. K for Kenneth, a T for Thomas Holborn.
Dr. K.T. Holborn.
The call is wanted as soon as possible, Caracas. It's in connection with a surgical operation.
We will hurry.
The serial number is 14979.
Serial 14979.
Commercial Airlines Airport.
This is the overseas operator in Caracas. Mr. David Harding in Washington, D.C. is calling a passenger on your Rio de Janeiro flight, Dr. K.T. Holborn.
Rio de Janeiro flight, it has not yet come in.
What time is it due?
It was delayed over the Caribbean by bad weather. It is due in 2 hours. We can give Dr. Holborn a message when the flight arrives.
Please do so. Have him call the overseas operator. It is in connection with an important surgical operation.
2 hours, Mr. Harding, and there's nothing we can do for Peters. There's got to be.
Yes, Mr. Harding?
Connect me with the airport in Caracas, will you, please? Put the call through no matter what.
In a moment, back to Counterspy, presented by delicious Pepsi-Cola.
April 4th, 1950, Counterspy on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Are you suffering with arthritis or osteoporosis? Do you have diabetes? Did you know that these are just 2 of the hundreds of diseases that have seen improvement with Dr. Wallach's incredible longevity products? You can't get them at a health food store. The only way to get them is to call us at 800-214-0065. That's 800-214-0065. Do you have heart disease, fibromyalgia, or high blood pressure? Do you have a terrible time losing weight? Dr. Wallach can help. He was a veterinarian and cured diseases in animals. He felt that he could do the same for humans, so he became a physician. Over 50 years of research and helping people like you goes into every bottle of Dr. Wallach's amazing discoveries. Do you want to feel better? Learn how to treat the cause of your problem rather than covering up the symptoms with drugs. Call 800-214-0065. That's 800-214-0065.
Technology has made it easier. Do you realize what they had to go through to place these calls? Now you have an idea. April 4th, 1950, Counterspy on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Caracas Airport to Flight 598. Caracas Airport to Flight 598.
Flight 598. What is it, Caracas?
Do you have a Dr. K.T. Holborn aboard?
Dr. Holborn? Yes, we have.
There is an emergency telephone call for him from Washington, D.C. You are due in 1 hour and 45 minutes, but at the request of the Chief of the United States Counterspies, we have obtained special permission for you to come in ahead of time, if you can do it.
We can try. You give us the air lane and landing clearance.
We will arrange everything. Come in with all possible speed.
I can be over the field at 23:30. Bring me in fast.
Doctor. How's Peters?
Resting comfortably, but every minute counts.
Violet, where will I find a telephone?
Now, that's side entrance to the administration building, Dr. Holborn.
Thank you.
Overseas operator, Caracas.
This is Dr. Holborn. I understand you have a call for me?
Yes, sir. 1 moment, please. Overseas Miami, your call to Caracas, Venezuela.
Washington, your call to Caracas. Equator 1000, your call to Venezuela. We are ready.
Harding.
Dr. Holborn in Venezuela for you, Mr. Harding. Go ahead, please.
Dr. Dillon. Talk to him.
Yes.
Hello. Holborn speaking.
Dr. Holborn, this is Dr. Henry Dillon, Chief Medical Officer of the United States Counterspy.
Oh, yes, Dr. Dillon.
We have a serious case here that requires your technique, the Holborn incision. and none of us here is familiar with it.
Suppose I fly right back to Washington.
And I'm afraid there isn't time for that now, Dr. Holborn. Could we do this? If I acquaint you with the X-rays, could you then direct me in the operation over the phone? We'll have the phone connected right in the operating theater. Ready, Dr. Holborn?
Ready, Dr. Dillon.
Anterior-posterior and lateral X-rays show the bullet to be midway between the third ventricle and the sella turcica, with the head of the bullet approximately 2 millimeters from the anterior aspect of the lateral ventricle.
Make your incision starting at a point 35 millimeters from the zygomatic tubercle and 12 millimeters from the Terrian suture line, parallel to the superior temporal line and distal to the sphenoidal sinus.
And distal to the sphenoidal sinus.
Sphenoidal sinus.
Lateral X-ray shows the nose of the slug to be 2 millimeters from the anterior aspect of the lateral ventricle.
2 millimeters. Then bring your incision up at a 45-degree angle towards the superior temporal line.
Angle of incision. 45 degrees toward the superior temporal line.
45 degrees toward superior temporal line.
Right. Next step, Holborn.
April 4th, 1950, Counterspy, the conclusion next on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Let's see, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MediShare. Maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for healthcare can save the typical family $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true that people are way more satisfied after making the switch, too. The customer satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. MediShare works. It's been around for more than a quarter century, and members have shared more than $3 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So, yeah, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. 833-34-BIBLE. That's 833-34-BIBLE. 833-34-BIBLE.
You know how every house has peculiar odors in it, whether it's cigarette smoke or whether it's fish you fried in the kitchen or just about anything? You can clean everything in the house, but you can't clean the air unless you get an Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier. Now, these are really neat things. They plug into the wall and stay there. The entire unit plugs into the wall. You don't have to take up any counter space, no filters to replace, and they work fast, and they're quiet. There's one right next to me here in the studio. Yeah, they've already sold over 200,000 of them, and you can get the best deal of all. You can save $200 on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack, 3 units, one for every stinky room in the house, and save a lot of money. Go to EdenPureDeals.com, put in my promo code CLASSIC3, and you'll save $200. EdenPureDeals.com, CLASSIC3 is the promo code. Shipping is free. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, the conclusion of Counterspy, April 4th, 1950.
Make the incision no more than 3 centimeters in length.
Incision 3 centimeters. Right. Scalpel.
Scalpel.
All right, Holborn. I'm making the first incision.
Hello, Peters.
Hello, Dave.
Yeah, it was pretty close, fella.
The doc said you tore up the international phone
Well,
system.
Peters, now the main thing is you're going to be all right now.
I may miss a couple of days, Chief.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Well, I guess my time's up. Now, Dr. Dillon wasn't even going to let me in at all.
Dave, about Professor Cabanas.
Hmm?
Did you get the questionnaire finished?
Finished? Well, that was finished before the man opened the sunroom door and fired. Professor Cabanas gave it to me.
Man? Sunroom door?
Yeah.
Well, the shots came from behind me, Dave. I was sitting at the desk.
Easy, Peters. You better take it easy. Look, I'll come back this afternoon. We'll talk about it. You go to sleep. Well, Edwards, Professor Cabarrus isn't here, but we can work anyway.
Yes, Mr. Harding.
Now, Peters said that he was sitting here at the desk.
I faced him right at the sunroom door.
Professor Cabarrus said that that's where the attacker appeared.
But Peters was looking right at the door and saw no one.
And another thing, the 3 bullets that hit Peters hit him in the back of the head. That means then that the bullets came from behind him.
There's only the fireplace behind the desk. This one filing cabinet.
Of course, when I spoke to Peters, he was still foggy from the operation and the anesthetic.
Look out!
Thanks for knocking me out of the way, Edward. Where'd those shots come from?
As I was looking at the filing cabinet, the little metal flap covering the lock on the second drawer moved aside. Behind it, I saw the muzzle of a pistol.
Now, let's see. Locked. Hand me that poker from the fireplace.
All right.
Thanks. We'll pry the drawer open.
An automatic. What's that apparatus, Mr. Harding?
That looks like a photoelectric cell. Yes, projecting a photoelectric beam across the chair at the desk.
To actuate the firing of the automatic. But why didn't it go off the moment you sat down there?
I can't tell offhand, but we may find it's a delayed action system taking maybe a minute and...
Mr. Harding.
Oh, hello, Professor Cabarrus.
Your man at the front door told me you gentlemen were here. I take it you've discovered the filing cabinet, Mr. Harding.
An ingenious murder scheme to kill Peters while he sat at that desk.
To kill Mr. Peters? Then he's dead?
Somebody wanted him dead.
Dreadful. Dreadful. Who could have used my house to try to murder him?
I have only one suspicion, Professor. It was someone who wanted to conceal certain facts about himself. Edwards, that questionnaire, please.
Yes, sir.
Professor, you told me you and Peters had completed filling this out before the shots were fired, but Peters tells me you'd only reached item 7, just before the questions concerning your activities in Europe during the war.
I'm sure Mr. Peters is mistaken, Mr. Harding.
No, he's not, because this reveals a motive for the murder attempt. Peters might have asked pointed questions, and they would have shown that during the last war you were not in exile or in the underground, but in the pay of the very people you pretend to despise.
Ridiculous, Mr. Harding.
Not at all. But this morning I talked to our attachés in your capital, and these answers here are false. You gambled. Nobody would check them. You'd be safe to work on American scientific projects and steal vital information. Edward, search him.
Yes, sir. Mr. Harding, I protest.
You'll have every liberty to, in court, because I'm charging you now with the attempted murder of Harry Peters. I'm very happy to say you failed all around.
Tune in every Tuesday and Thursday, same time, same station, to Counterspy. Listen on Thursday for the exciting Case of the Bootleg Buttons.
High-grade gold, purified in the white heat of flame. A criminal scheme forged in the heat of greed. Yet your counterspies were able to apply the heat of the law to a trio who dealt in death and double-cross. Listen on Thursday to
The Case of the Bootleg Buttons on Counterspy. Tonight's Counterspy program originated in New York and was directed by Leonard L. Bass, dramatized by Paul Milton, and featured Don McLaughlin and Mandel-Kramer with music by Jesse Crawford. This is Jay Jackson speaking. Counterspy is a Phillips H. Lord production for Pepsi-Cola. Enjoy some delicious Pepsi tonight.
April 4th, 1950, Counterspy on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Are you in bad pain? You know what I mean. Your knees hurt. Your shoulder hurts. Your elbow and back are constantly killing you. And I'm sure you've tried every pain pill or cream available at the drugstore. Am I right? Well, here's something you haven't tried. Pain Magic. Pain Magic is not available at any drugstore. The only place you can get it is by calling the special toll-free number I'm about to give you.
And to make things even better, call right now and find out about our buy one, get one free offer. We're so confident it'll work for you that we offer a free bottle with your purchase. No prescription required.
Call now to learn how you can get Pain Magic and get rid of your pain. Remember, your results may vary.
800-492-8164. 800-492-8164. 800-492-8164. That's 800-492-8164.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, the third part of the five-part yours truly Johnny Dollar story, The Salt City Matter, April 4th, 1956.
From Hollywood, it's time now for
Johnny Dollar.
Yes? Skyline Apartments, clerk speaking.
Johnny Dollar speaking.
What?
Maybe you don't remember me, but I remember you. I was there last night and got banged on the head by a pair of hoodlums.
I know nothing about it, and I can't talk now.
Well, then you can listen. I'm coming over there in about an hour. I hope your two hoods are there when I show up. Would you tell them that for me?
I'll deliver the message, if you wish.
Do that.
Tonight and every weekday night, Bob Bailey in the transcribed adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar. To Sam Rubin and Associates, Insurance Brokers, Majestic Building, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Salt City matter. Expense account item 8, $10. Medical bill for 2 stitches in my scalp. Item 9, 10 cents. One more phone call to the prettiest insurance broker in San Francisco.
You said you'd buy me lunch.
Something's come up.
I don't care what you say. You said you'd meet me. Meet me.
Item 10, $2. More of that ever-loving cab fare. This time I kept the cabbie waiting outside Eleanor Stover's apartment.
Johnny.
Hi, Angel.
I didn't want to be a witch, but I did want to see you, if only for a minute. Come in.
Can't. My cab's waiting downstairs.
But I want... What happened to you?
Oh, I argued a little bit with 2 of Ed Julian's hired hands. He has a little muscle around him these days. No one to worry him.
Oh, Johnny, I feel responsible.
Why?
Well, like a big dope, I was the one who sold him that insurance policy. Now you have to mix into it and try to keep him alive. You look like the one who needs protection.
Well, don't look at it that way. If you hadn't sold him the policy, I'd never have come to San Francisco, and I'd never have met you.
And you wouldn't be here right now.
I'll call you later. Ellie.
Yes, John?
I didn't tell you this part. I'm going to serve a subpoena on him and try to get him to appear in court. I don't expect you to pay any attention to it, and then they'll issue a warrant for his arrest for contempt of court. I figured he'd be as safe in jail as anywhere else.
What subpoena?
An attorney who worked on a few deals with him, a man named Ray Gumby.
Oh, take care.
I went back to my cab and told the driver to take me to the Skyline Apartments. When we pulled up in front, the same kind of things were going on in the same lobby.
Well.
Hello, Moisha.
Oh, Mr. Swift?
Let me. Swifty! Swifty!
You're in here looking for trouble, and you're going to get it. I thought you found that out once.
I sure did, and I sure am. Where's your tall, skinny friend?
He's coming.
Luke?
You. Well, if it isn't the Rover boy from Hartford. How many times we have to toss you out of here?
You've hit your quota. I only get tossed out of one place at one time. What floor's Julian on?
The 4th. But that don't
Get out of my way.
Not so fast.
I hate to have to mess you up all over again.
All right, Weisenheimer, this is a knife.
This is a gun.
Oh, that way, huh?
Yeah.
Put that thing away, boy.
I got 2 stitches in my scalp from you boys last night. I'll always have a little scar from them. And somehow I think you should have the same. Under the circumstances, it seemed like the honest thing to do. I left both of them in the lobby and took the elevator unescorted up to the 4th floor. But I was disappointed once more. Ed Julian didn't answer the door, but a small blonde girl who looked like she might have been having a good cry did.
Swifty, what do you want? You're not Swifty.
Is Ed Julian here?
Swifty didn't let you come up here. He won't let anybody up here. How'd you get inside?
Why don't you invite me in and I'll tell you all about it?
Are you a policeman?
No, ma'am.
All right. Why not? Come on in. Whoever you are, mister, you're taking some awful chances.
Well, let's say I'm a friend of Ed's.
Ed hasn't got any friends, and I know all of them. What's your name?
Johnny Dollar. Where do I find him?
I'm Ed's wife. My name's Lorraine.
I know you. I know a friend of yours, Eleanor Stover. She said she went to high school with you about 10 years ago.
A million years ago. At least a million. How did you know her?
I'm in the insurance business. Do you expect Ed back soon?
I don't expect anything anymore. No. What do you want to see him about?
Business. I'd like to wait for him.
You got this far, you might as well. What about Swifty and Luke downstairs?
They were glad to see me come up.
You want a drink or something? You ought to take off your hat and coat. It'll be cold for you when you... Oh. Did they do that?
Yes, it wasn't too easy getting in.
Oh, those dirty punks. Can I fix it or something?
Doctor just tucked 2 stitches in it. It'll be okay.
I'm sorry. You seem like a nice guy.
Well, you seem like a nice girl.
What?
I said you seem like a nice girl.
Nobody said anything like that to me since I married Ed. You aren't supposed to be nice when I love somebody like Ed Julian.
Well, my job is to protect him. From who or what, I don't know, but to protect him. I want to find him.
Well, you won't protect him here. He hasn't been here for a couple of days.
Where is he?
How should I know where he is? How should I know? I'm only his wife, the hired girl. Those others came in town.
What others?
Those from the east. Ugly men with... Yesterday... No, I guess it was the day before. Ed was here with one of them. A man named Chili Winters. They sat right there, drinking, talking. Then they both went out together. I didn't like the way that Chili looked.
Where'd they go?
I don't know. Oh, get out of here, Johnny. You aren't going to find him here ever. Go on. Beat it. He'll kill me if he found me talking to anybody. He'd kill me. I know it.
I didn't want that to happen, so I left. No one was in the lobby to say hello, fire a bullet, or use a blackjack. I spent another hour downtown at the Hall of Justice looking up the record of Chili Winters, a list of felonies ranging from armed robbery to assault with a deadly weapon. He'd been convicted twice on the latter charge, once in Michigan and once in California. It seemed likely that tracing him might prove helpful in locating Ed Julian, but he was not to be located either. About 3 o'clock in the afternoon, after a fruitless day of trying to locate Winters or Julian or both, I went back to my hotel room.
Oh, Mr. Dollar. Mr. Dollar?
Now what?
Do you remember me, the desk clerk at the Skyline?
Yeah, I remember you.
I must apologize for what happened. I mean, all the trouble you had with Mr. Swift and Mr. Luke. They didn't handle the matter very well.
No, they didn't. What's on your mind?
Well, I'll be very blunt. 2 things are on my mind. Ed Julian and your problem in locating him. I'm just a desk clerk. I need every penny, you know.
I hope you're sawing it away.
I took an awful chance coming here. You asked for Mr. Julian twice yesterday. You found him neither time.
Come on, get to it, will you?
Well, I know you aren't a thug like those others. I mean, I didn't know until Mrs. Julian told me you were an insurance man. Well, anyway, I know where Mr. Julian can be found.
Where?
And I'd hoped you'd be able to,
Here. This is all I'm able to. Now, where is he?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Dollar. Now, I just happened to overhear this morning when I was working the switchboard. Mr. Julian, well, he's in Salt City, California. The Salt City Smelter Company, I believe one of his enterprises. It seems he went there with a Mr. Winters because there's going to be a kind of a big meeting of all of them there. Mr. Reno and others. Sometime this week. Does that make sense to you, Mr. Dollar?
It might. Yeah. All right, you've got your money.
Oh, yes, thank you, Mr. Dollar. Oh, and please don't mention to anyone that I was here, that I disclosed this to you. I'd lose my job if it got out, and I'd be
A local filling station furnished a map of California, which located a place called Salt City about 300 miles away in the desert. I decided to ask a man who might know about it, Ray Gumby, attorney at law.
Uh-oh.
What?
I've handled correspondence from there. Not on the beaten path.
Well, that doesn't tell me much.
As near as I can gather, it's an enterprise town, lock, stock, and barrel. If Ed Julian's gone over there... Well, let's forget all this, at least my part of it.
Why?
I don't want you to go that far in trying to get him back here. Salt City's real bad news.
Yeah, sounds like it, Mr. Gumby.
Let me ask you something. Why are you going this far on this case? Sounds like a loser to me.
I don't know, Mr. Gumby, I don't know. But I've had the feeling ever since Ed Julian's name was first mentioned that something was happening. Something way off somewhere, but so close I could touch it.
That's funny. I've had the same feeling.
Expense account item 11, $38. Transportation. By train, San Francisco to Salt City and return. It was just coming up dawn when the conductor nudged me out of a restless sleep and told me the Salt City stop was 60 seconds long. I took my bag and stepped off onto the dry, sun-baked clay that served as a station platform. Then I looked around and saw a yellow, grimy little town stuck along one side of a yellow, grimy little mountain. The stacks from an immense smelter rising up to the skyline, the smell of phosphorus and coke in the air. It had been a bad trip to what was obviously a bad place. And naturally enough, bad things began to happen right away.
Taxi, mister?
Yeah, sure.
Where to?
Salt City Smelter Works. Know where they are?
Oh, yeah, I know where they are, but I ain't taking you there.
What?
Yeah, get your hand off of my cab door.
Hey, look,
Get your hand off the door. I'll call a cop.
You better do like he said, pal.
Huh? Oh, sure.
Smart. You ever been here before?
Nope.
It's the end of the line, pal. I've been here twice. Both times I promised myself I'd never come back again.
And what are you doing here now?
Accident. They kicked me off that freight. I get nightmares about this place. I remember the first cop I ever met here in Salt City. While I was spelling my name to him, he hit me in the face several times. Always by mistake, of course. But don't risk any mistakes, friend.
I'm not going to be here long.
That's good, that's real good. You know what?
What?
Somebody made this dump and then forgot about it. Just plain forgot about it. I see you.
No bird sang. No dog barked. No cock crowed. Nothing. Nothing but that feeling inside of me and something saying, it's going to happen here. It's going to happen here.
And now here's our star to tell you about tomorrow's intriguing episode of this week's story.
Tomorrow? Well, maybe I was psychic or something, because tomorrow is when that feeling, that hunch, turns into action. Join us, won't you? Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Bob Bailey, is transcribed in Hollywood. Written by John Dawson, it is produced and directed by Jack Johnstone. Be sure to join us tomorrow night, same time and station, for the next exciting episode of Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Roy Rowan speaking.
This whole Salt City matter was a lost series of Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Our friend Ted at RadioMemories.com was able to scrape up 4 episodes of the 5-part episode, and you're going to hear parts 3, 4, and 5 in the next few times we're going to be around here. This is from April 4th, 1956, Yours truly, Johnny Dollar on Classic Radio Theater, and you can find Ted at RadioMemories.com. A reminder to thank this radio station, support their advertisers. I'd appreciate it. I know they would too. Drop them a card or a letter and do business with them when you can, would you please? It is their kindness and courtesy that allow us to be with you each and every time we roll around here on your favorite station. Now, if you miss a day on this station, you don't have to miss a single show. Our shows are available through iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, TuneIn, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcast, or Overcast, or I have Amazon. Just search for Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. That's Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. You can also find them on our webpage, classicradio.stream, where you can stream our shows on demand, learn more about classic radio collecting. You can contact me there as well, classicradio.stream. And thank you for tuning in. Tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station.